All right, so let me share my screen here. And with that, before I get started, um, like I said, my name is Cedric Hardy. I'm located in Elgin, Illinois, in the Chicagoland area. I've been in the insurance industry for just about a little bit over 4 years. I'm a pre-need counselor. I'm a father. I'm a retired veteran, several other things too as well. So I can keep going all day on that. But I did want to kick this off with one small message to you. And this is what we're here for. Taking on the pain and sadness of another human being is not something most people are capable of doing. It takes a remarkable sort of person to willingly walk into the eye of a hurricane and withstand the battering waves of another person's griefs. So, looking at this business and looking at the how this works with as we come and go, people are born every day and people pass away every day. It is always a memory and a legacy that is left behind and one that's created. So if you could, write down 10,000. That's the magic number that we're going to talk about tonight. Just to kind of give you an idea where I'm going with this as we talk about funeral planning, right? So 10,000. I can't say that I'm going to give you 10,000, but 10,000 is the number as we talk about this process when it comes to funeral planning. All right. So you've already wrote that down. I'm a little bit ahead of myself, and you're like, wow, why did I do that? And you're gonna find out why as long as you wrote that down, and you can just do the math in your head. All right. So when it comes to funeral planning, there's a lot of things that has to be considered. A lot of things when it comes down to it, which is one, what we don't have is time. Time is the biggest thing that you have to think about when it comes down to this. Uh, you know, Unexpected events and circumstances. Um, when at the time of passing, how will you pass? We just don't know of old age, medical conditions, an accident. There could be there's a various numbers of ways, and this is the one that I'm going to be straightforward and talk about things that people don't talk about. Is your loved one or are you a donor? Looking at that, think about it. Are you a donor? There's a lot of things that changes once you become a donor. That's nothing. That's not a bad thing, right? Violent crimes, and suicide. Unfortunately, those things happen around us. So taking that into consideration, those unexpected events and circumstances, we had to look at that. That does matter when it comes to insurance and how things are taken care of. Inmates, we do have some loved ones and family members that may be a inmate incarcerated or coming out in the near future too as well. So are they covered by the state? You know, a lot of people ask that question. Hey, Cedric, I have a loved one. Incarcerated right now. I need a funeral. I need a funeral plan for them. Just know that when someone is incarcerated too as well, that is covered by the state. So you don't have to go out there and fortunately have to have a assurance policy for that individual. But if there are rules to that if you want to have a service for that loved one outside that their remains are released. And then the location of the event that this occurs, right? Whether they're in another state, another country, that plays a big difference when it comes down to it. So I ask you to write down 10,000 and keep that number in mind. 10,000, 10,000. We do have some that just came in. So, in the event that something happens, right, there's the first thing that has to happen. And let me make sure if you could, everybody, make sure you're muted. Uh, at the event when something occurs, always remember that there's this nice van that's right here. And when that event occurs, when there's a passing, we call 911. I thought you had to just call 911. You call a coroner, but there is a charge to pick up your loved one, to pick someone up when that time comes. So what I want you to do at this time is you had that 10,000 that I asked everybody to write down, 10,000, and then I want you to minus $285, right? So to pick up your loved one, the funeral home or or whoever that you coordinate with, there is a charge to pick up that loved one. That is not something that's just done automatically. So if you didn't know that was an expense, that is an expense for your loved one to be picked up, right? Now, that means before you even get to that, who are you going to call? Are you going to call the funeral home? Are you going to call the hospital? Most likely, you're going to call the funeral home. And when you call that funeral home, there is there's an agreement. There's a lot of documents that the client will sign, the loved one that's going to be taking care of that one for the homegoing. There's an agreement that's there, right? You have to know what funeral home that you're going to pick when you make that commitment that they're going to get picked up. Okay. All right. So how will the homegoing be funded? That is the biggest question that happens at the time of an unexpected event because we don't know, when that's going to happen, right? Now, I'm not going to sound too excited doing this presentation, but I'm just going to deliver it because we all understand the importance of this. So, types of payment, will you pay for this service in cash? Will you pay with a cashier's check? Will you finance it, which means that you're going to incur interest and credit and all those things, right? Now, do you have a signable life insurance? And that's a key word, a signable life insurance that's assigned to that person that needs to be taken care of. At least 20, if there's something $25,000 or less, I'm giving y'all a bonus, a nugget. When a policy is $25,000 or less, then the insurance company will pay that immediately. There's something called express. Now, remember, I am a funeral consultant, so too as well, I'll give you a little bit of insight of how this works too as well. Now, on the other hand, there is something called pre-need arrangements where most of the time those services that are provided may have been paid for in advance or coordinated with that funeral home. Now, when we're dealing with seniors, those that are over 65, that may be assigned to a senior care facility, then guess what? Just know that when they go into a senior care facility, they can't have more than $17,500 in assets. So there may be something that's there too as well. Make sure that you know that your loved one, if do they even have anything. And then there's funeral plans. That's another way that this could be funded. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So just remember that most of the time there's processing fees up to 10%. Okay. So looking at that, that's add another five minus another $500. So we started out with 10,000. That was the number. You're doing the math tonight. You had 10,000. You minus 285 because somebody picked up your loved one, and now you're gonna minus another $500 for this processing fee. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit of understanding of how we work in Illinois. I'm in Illinois, but I'm also licensed in 32 other states for insurance. But then what we're going to talk about tonight is going to cover a lot of the states nationwide, and I don't want to jump ahead. So when it comes down to it, and you work with different funeral homes across in your neighborhood, or your family has a funeral home that they've been going to for years, and you're looking at the different prices of what they charge, is based on their education. So if you didn't know that, in Illinois, there's four colleges for mortuary affairs. So you have Southern Illinois, you have Carl Sandburg, and you have one of the most known, Malcolm X College, in the heart of Chicago, and then you have the Harvard of mortuary affairs that only focuses on that, which is called Worsham College. They do 80 extra hours of makeup. They specialize in everything that you can think of, and when it comes down to that, any funeral director that comes out of that college, they're going to charge extra for their prices, right? Now, if you look here, there's a lot of things that they work on, and that's where, that college that they come from, that's how you know how they're going to handle your loved one. And I just talked to a couple individuals throughout the week. They talked about, and family members, how um a loved one wasn't taken care of to the best of their ability. They have everything organized, makeup, dressing, all of those things. So looking at that, let's keep going. All right. So when it comes down to it, you got the 10,000. We're minusing. We're doing the. We're taking some numbers away, right? You've already turned around and you had 10,000. You paid 500. Now you paid 285. And now here are all of the things that you will consider when it comes down to a service, right? There's a funeral director's fee. So I work for one of I serve with, I don't want to say I work for. I serve with one of the top funeral homes in the Chicagoland area, which is I.J. Cannon Funeral Home. Mentor, Mr. Cannon, and he went to Worsham College. So with that, what he charges for his service is just about over $4,000 just to have him as your funeral director. So looking at that, I'm going to give you an average breakdown, and this is I got you doing a little bit of math on a Sunday night. I apologize, but it won't be too much. This is for learning purposes. All right. So when it comes down to a funeral, you have to pay for the funeral director, right? So now I want you to minus $3,000. You got to think about the types of services. What type of service do you want to have if it's not a cremation, or do you want the large room? Do you want the big room? Do you want to have a viewing? Do you want to have that on a Thursday, Saturday? All those things make a difference when it comes down to funeral planning, right? So what type of service will you be looking for? All right. Now, are you going to have a hearse? Okay. Some that comes with an extra cost, minus another $400. And for those that came in, um, take out something to write with. We started with $10,000, and we're going to work off a $10,000 um, budget. Okay. You've already minusing all of these things. Now, what about shipping? You know, do you know if you haven't thought about it, or if you weren't unaware, I don't want to say you're sitting at home thinking about this, but if you weren't aware, there are a lot of James Brown. I love to use James Brown as an example. It took just about over 10 years to bury James Brown. And what they did for him is they prepared his remains and moved him from one state to another state to another state and several different things, right? Then it comes down to autopsies. There's a lot of different things that they had to do for him. A lot of people don't know James Brown lost his legs for an autopsy because for DNA tests and things like that. That comes at a cost, right? Now, the cemetery, most people don't think about the cemetery. That comes at an extra cost, right? Now, just if you did not know, and I did not know this when I first started, I haven't buried. I've only buried one person in my lifetime, but I wasn't old enough. I wasn't part of that process. But when you pick a funeral home, just understand that you are responsible, the family member that's taking care of this loved one, that they're responsible for coordinating with the cemetery. It was never the funeral home. The funeral home The funeral director, the reason why you hired them is because when a procession enters the cemetery, if you never notice, they always stop. And the only way that you can enter that cemetery with a procession is because the funeral director is state licensed, just like I am a state licensed insurance broker. So that comes with a fee. Now, just think about all of those things. Now, when you buy a plot, I'm not going to get into the cemetery. Just know that the cemetery is real estate. Okay. It's not part of the funeral home. It is real estate. So $495, maybe just for the plot, when may be the cost, right? But in some locations, it may cost you, when you buy the plot, that was just about $495 on estimate. $2,000 to open, to dig the hole, and another $2,000 to close it, right? So look at that. I gave you $10,000 to start with, but now looking at it, that number's really decreasing. Now, part of that funeral service is the outfit. Are you going to allow the funeral home to dress your loved one, or are you going to bring an outfit from home if they can still fit it? All right. Most people don't know beauticians and barbers are part of the process. They come in and, I definitely, if you see me, I want my beard trimmed up. I've been waiting 23 years to grow a beard after I retired after the military. So looking at that, that's another $150 that's charged for that. Embalming, that's another over $1,000 for that. That's the biggest and most important piece of this. It has to be done, right? And then you have the pre-need for the seniors, and then maybe refrigeration. Well, I talked about James Brown. So James Brown, as I mentioned, that was about over a 10-year process where he had to go from here to there. And also lately, I just had a young lady. She buried her father. Her father passed away in May, but because of their Asian tradition, they didn't do they didn't have the service until September. So think about that. Refrigeration, that comes at a cost. So if you are picking a service that's, if you have $10,000 as part of your budget, or you have a certain number, you have to consider all of these small details when you get into picking, hosting a service, a funeral. So looking at that, in several different locations, there's different rules. And Virginia has a rule where, if you didn't know, in Virginia, you can't even, if you do a cremation, you can't even take the ashes in the urn home. By law, it has to go to the cemetery. Okay. So with that, in most locations, you have to have a vault, right? So you have to have the vault, which comes at an additional cost. You maybe have family members coming in from different locations. Maybe that may come at a cost. And then that casket. Well, that's one thing that we still haven't talked about, the cost of the casket, whether it's metal, whether it's wooden, maybe it's an Amazon box. I'm joking. All right. Hopefully nobody does the Amazon box. And also the size of the casket. So if you have someone that's kind of solid and kind of wide, the average um, width of the casket is just about 26 inches. Over that, the wider that your loved one is, or that person is, the more that it costs, because you need a bigger casket and several different other things, right? So looking at that, in the end, you have one more thing, the death certificate. And at this point, when you go to funerals, you start to notice sometimes they don't have obituaries. They may have the viewing book, but the obituary is just something to pass out, because that comes at an extra cost. So with that, maybe you have already maximized the $10,000 already, and now it comes time to shop and find something. So with that, family members need time to grieve, right? It's not an easy process, on top of trying to understand how this happened and things like that. So what I want to do, I'm not gonna say what if, I want to introduce you to something called Assure for Life, something that can help you, a concierge service that can make this a seamless process for you. So taking into consideration everything that I've said, right? The the vault, where you're gonna what funeral home that you're gonna use, how the person passed away, picking up the person, what funds that you have, the desires of your loved one. Did they want to be cremated? Did they want to have a traditional funeral? All these things are taken in consideration. So I want to introduce to you tonight a company called Assure for Life. They've been around for 70 years, since 1950, and they understand and have been through so many processes that we couldn't even imagine, right? There's this one helps you in a process of saying goodbye to your loved one and giving give you that taking. I'm trying to find the right words because there's no good way to say that there's help for grieving, because there is no good process for that, right? But you do have this where they can take away the burden of the logistics, the financial portion of it, and it even provide you that legal support too as well. All right. So this company accompanies you at that time in your life, with the toughest moment in your life when you need that type of help. Looking at that, this company covers is A plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. They're across the United States. They are not in two states, which is Michigan and North Dakota. And I know a couple others that's in their location too as well. So they also cover all of the United States, across the United States, Puerto Rico, that cover Latin America. So in Illinois, we just had a big influx of individuals coming from Venezuela too as well. But maybe you may have family members in Colombia, Mexico, Panama. Also covers the Caribbean too as well. So if you may have family in Haiti or Jamaica, this company helps cover your loved ones there too as well. Now, with that, what do they cover, Cedric? What do they cover? They cover the transfer of the deceased to the local funeral provider. So guess what? That's one thing taken off the table that you don't have to worry about. That white van that you kept seeing at the $285, they'll cover that to make sure that your loved one's picked up by the right individuals. They'll help you find the funeral director, the funeral home that's local to you, or the best one for you if you just don't know. Nobody drives around looking for funeral homes unless you may have someone that you know. But then they'll cover that. They'll cover the embalming and preparation of your loved one. They'll cover the chapel or for the funeral home for the wake, because traditionally across the United States, that's something that we do. We want to have one last time that we can see our loved one. Now they call it the coffin. It makes me think about vampires and stuff like that, but they do cover the casket or the chest. Okay, and then they do the book of signatures. They pay for that, and the remembrance cards, and one death certificate. So with that right there, that's just about almost $7,000 to $10,000 just right there alone. This company also helps take care of the cremation and the urn, right? They cover the cost of that, or they cover the cost of the casket, and they cover the hearse too as well. All right. So waiting periods. So as an insurance agent, too as well, along with being a consultant in this business, this company actually covers an individual after they get the plan after the third business day. So after the third business day, you're covered for accidents, violence, and suicides. Now, with this, I've been doing this for just about 2 years. Part of this part of this business of working with Assure for Life. And I want to say this: the reason why I got into working with this company after doing so much homework on what they can do and how they do it was I ran across a young lady who didn't have the funds. She had a drug history, a legal history, and there was no way that I can get her into an assurance policy. I had one option to get her into insurance where she had to wait 2 years, but there was no way that she could afford it. And she was a negative $125 in her bank account every month. And she was always looking for someone to borrow here and borrow there to pay for anything that she needed in life. And some people live like that. So take this burden away, right? And I'll tell you how you can do that. So with that, after the third business day, all right, when it comes down to insurance, life insurance, traditional life insurance, a person has to live 2 years. If they unfortunately take their lives before that second year, the insurance company will not pay. Right. In most cases, they will refund the premiums paid. Sometimes they may not. Violent crimes. If there's a victim of a violent crime, then sometimes that causes issues too, where they may not pay, or there's autopsies and things like that. Just a bonus so everybody can write this down. If you have a loved one that's part of that's a victim of a violent crime, your state has a program through the Attorney General's office where they will reimburse up to a certain amount. I want to say it says online 45,000, but usually look at just about the cost of $10,000 if it's a violent crime, and it takes up to a year to get that. Right. So we don't want our funeral homes waiting a year to get paid. They want to get paid now because they are a business. Now, accidental deaths. They cover accidental deaths. So looking at that a car accident or whatever type of way that is called an accident, they're taking care of that after the third day and up to the 180th day, then you're fully covered. So I've had myself and some of my partners, we place people great clients, their loved ones, and policies where they had to wait 2 years. And unfortunately, they passed away prior to the 2 year period. And guess what? They just got a refund of the whatever was paid into it plus a 10% interest. That wasn't enough paying $20 or $40 a month to cover a funeral. So imagine how significant it is to have something that covers you for accidents and fully covered up to the 180th day. The only way that you can't utilize the plan that we're talking about tonight is if someone currently, if they signed up today, has a terminal illness, cancer, dialysis, or a brain tumor currently. Now, if they're in remission, that is completely okay. If they come down with these symptoms, medical conditions after they get the plan, they're completely okay. Just not as at the day that they signed up. Cedric, how do they know? When a person passes away, it's actually noted on a death certificate. So definitely we want to make sure that you can ask your loved ones, the members that you add to this plan, that is noted on there too as well. So here's the difference. So with this funeral plan, you have the 24/7 concierge. You can call all day, all night. You're going to get the attention that you need where the company is strictly focused on you or the loved one at that time. What if it could be not you, but someone like you that passes away. They'll call your emergency contact and everybody that's on the list too as well. This is a membership. This is not insurance. And that's definitely, I want to stump my foot on the ground. This is a membership. This is not life insurance. Okay. So with that, they also cover your flights. So if you were in the state of Florida or the state of South Carolina and you had a loved one that passed away in Jamaica, right? And they were on a plane or they had to be flown back to there, they will pay for a round trip to that location and back. I like to travel a lot. Hopefully, I'm not the one that a story is being told, but should something happen to I should be here and not there, they'll fly me round trip. Okay. The only thing that this does not cover is the cemetery because the cemetery is real estate. Okay. So now if you had final expense life insurance, then guess what? You just got to make sure you had to assign a beneficiary, and whoever the beneficiary was, they're going to get the funds, and hopefully they decide to take care of your of that person's final home going, but they don't have to. So it has to be a trusted beneficiary. And I've seen clients where the beneficiary received the money and they did not do what the person wanted them to do for their final desires. Okay. This is just a legal document and that's it. And if you don't have enough, then it's just not enough. Now, pre-need, I won't get too much into pre-need, but that one is a little bit costly. There's a contract with the funeral home, but with this funeral plan, it will take care of all of those desires based on the time that the event occurs. All right. Said, how much does it cost? This is one of the only plans that I've seen. There's only 3 companies in the United States that does this, right? 3. This one covers 7 people. I want to talk about the family plan up to 7 members. This covers 7 members. Don't want to say people. 7 members up to $85. The other 2 that I refer to, they cover maybe 5 or maybe 2 people for 55, but it's subject to them if they decide to pay out. And if I go back to this, that I talked about this contract. There's a legal binding contract where they will pay for the funeral, or there could be a lawsuit to them. And I'm after seeing 3 loved ones throughout within my team and members that I know, they have paid every single time. That's why they're rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. So in special states, if it's Puerto Rico, Florida, North Carolina, the South Kakalaki, New York, or California, you fall in the special state category on the right-hand side, where if it was one person, you just want to sign up for yourself, it's just $25. If you're in a state like me, like Illinois, then it's $30, right? So if you're not in one of the special states on the right, you have to pay the regular prices too as well. So with that, who can I add on to this, Cedric? I don't need to when you get this plan, I don't ask you for your social security number. I don't ask you for I ask you, do you have those 5 things: brain tumor, dialysis, cancer, terminal illness, and one other that I mentioned. But that's it. Cedric, I got one arm. That's not one of we only worry about this. Cedric, I have someone with diabetes, COPD. It's not one of those things. Cedric, I have someone that's overweight. Look, if it's not a brain tumor, terminal illness, cancer, dialysis, or one of those things, guess what? That person's covered as soon as they sign up after the 3rd business day. So the only thing to add to that, there's a $30 enrollment fee one time. You can pay it up for the entire year. You can pay it up for the entire year, or what they ask is you pay up the first 3 months, and then guess what? You won't have to pay into month number 4. So here it is. Here's the conditions of this plan, and I'll definitely want you to just share this with someone if you don't get it for yourself, right? The plan holder must be 18 to 65 years old. The person that gets the plan, 18 to 65 years old, right? To get the family plan, and then you can have if you under 65, then you can add 2 members that are over 65 up to age 80. So what's the cap on the age, Cedric? it is age 80. So, so if you got somebody that's 80 today, we need to sign them up today. Okay. Now, we already talked about the special states. We already talked about the age, and then we talked about the $30 enrollment fee and things like that. So with that, that's all that I have to share to educate you about this plan. I hope that you learned a couple things when it comes down to what this plan can do. I'm not sure if you knew that this was out there in the world, but this is something brought to you by Legacy Smart Group and our partners. And I want to open it up for a Q&A. Any questions that you all have when it comes down to this plan. And what I'll do is I'll put in a chat here. Now that I can look at the chat, I'll put a link to if you would like to register and maybe set an appointment for more questions. But you can at this time unmute and ask if any questions that I may not have answered for you. Okay, quiet group, quiet group. That's okay. All right, so that's okay. If
I
you
have a question.
okay, definitely go ahead.
Okay, so I guess the bigger picture as far as the difference between this and insurance. So the reason why there is no specified dollar amount, like, the reason why there's no specified dollar amount is because it's not insurance. Like, who dictates what? I know you're laying out what they cover, but there's different, levels to, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, a golden casket or a regular casket, like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of different options on how a person could go through the funeral service, could go through the burial process, well, as far as the casket, the transport. So is it like the bare minimum that they would get as far as the actual coverage? I know you said the local, they would help get in contact with the family members or the local funeral home and all of that kind of stuff, but who dictates still? Obviously the stuff still does cost, so who dictates? Are they going to get the bare minimum, the basic, or are they going to just, like, you get what I mean?
Yes, no, that's a great question. Basically, what are they going to pay for? So what happens is they do the average cost of a funeral in the area. So now in 2024, funeral homes are now starting to be obligated. It will be they're kind of fighting it right now, but they're doing an average cost of funerals in the local area, right? So they're going to start posting their prices of what it's going to cost for the funeral director. Just got to knock that out the way because that's the first priority that has to be taken care of. So in the area, if you went on Google and you went to funeralocity.com or just looked at the rates in the area. So if the maximum rate in Columbia, South Carolina was 13,000 in that area in Columbia, South Carolina, then they will tell the funeral home they'll coordinate for you so you wouldn't have to worry about those things. Hey, we want a nice metal or whatever uh a nice casket that's going to be within this range. And they're going to tell the funeral home, hey, this is the budget that we want to work with, right? And they're going to lay out all the things that they're going to pay for. And then the funeral home will come back and give an itemized list, but also the loved one that's coordinating the funeral home I'm sorry, that's coordinating the funeral, they will have input into that too as well. And what will happen is if you want to have the golden Willy Wonka casket, I'm trying to add some spice to this because it is a downing thing. But if you wanted that Willy Wonka casket, you would just pay the difference. So if a Short Life said, hey, tell you what, we're gonna pay 3,500 for the casket, but you want the Willy Wonka, and it's a additional $1,000, then the family will pay for that. Some of the other things that may be asked for is the pastor. right? Based on a different religious beliefs. You may have a maybe Baptist, Christian, or the other religions that are there. Then the family will take care of those outside things that they want to honor their loved one at that home going. So they'll do the average cost in the area, right? And then that's gonna be public, and they will tell the family member that's doing a coordination that calls up to Shore Flight for everything. They will talk that over, and they will work with the funeral home too as well. But it won't be an extreme cost where it's going to be a $40,000 funeral, because we know even if we pay for the out of pocket, we won't pay that much for a funeral. So did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? I see uh lyrics phone. I see Lisa. If you have any other questions, feel free to unmute, or definitely, and I'll put my number in the chat too, or whoever invited you, please definitely reach back out to them, and we can also set up a separate consultation too as well, and I can answer all the questions. There's no question that I should not be able to answer. I can answer majority of your questions. Gigi, I see you have a question.
Hey, said thank you. I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you. This was really good information. I'm sorry I was a little bit late, but from what I gathered, it's good information. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out tonight. And I know the Bears game coming up, so definitely I'll squeeze this in that period of time. So Kenneth, I see you got a question. You got your hand up.
Yeah. Thank you as well for putting this information out. So my question was going back to the scenario where you were saying the individuals in Jamaica and the company covers per contract, it covers the round trip. Does that cover going to, let's say they live, for myself, I'm in Texas, right? And my loved one that is covered under this plan, this contract is in Jamaica. I'm going to pick them up and bring them back to Texas. Is that covered in the cost, or is it a service that will be held in Jamaica only?
Oh, great question. Great question. We had a conversation about that this week. So if the person is in the United States, they call it the embarkation, I want to say, right? I want to say deep embarkation. So if the person is in the United States, going back home, thank you, Brenda, going back to their where they were born, they will cover that. But if they're already international, they won't cover them coming to the United States. They'll only pay for them going back to the home that they were born that's international in the Caribbean or Latin America or Puerto Rico. They'll pay for that. Did that answer your question, Kenneth?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you much.
Okay, got it. Now, with that, so if you have, I will. Thanks for bringing it up. So the difference of the United States, and when we're talking about Jamaica, the Caribbean, and those locations, they have different options where the cemetery is not real estate and it is covered. So it's amazing that we can add them to this plan. And also, um, let's say that I get a plan today, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say there's 6 other people on this. There's 6 others that's on this call. I can add all 6 of you to my plan without even asking you, right? There's nothing that I have to get sensitive information. Only thing that I need to add you on the plan, your birthday, where you were born, and then that's it. So with that, and a last story that I'll give is within the past 4 months, I had a young lady that I know. She had a plan, and she added someone that was not family to the plan. A young lady that was a mom of 6, and the mom passed away. left 6 kids behind. And the one thing that they loved was they did not have to worry about that financial piece of the funeral. They didn't even ask her. They might have told her, said, hey, I'm just gonna cover you on a funeral plan that I have, but don't worry about it. It's only $70. So they covered themselves. That person was number 2 on 5 others. They had 7 people on that plan, and it paid off. They found our funeral home. It was a beautiful homegoing where they did the viewing, and then they did a cremation, and then guess what? The 6 children that were left behind, then they wound up taking care of the kids, and they had more time to focus on the children. So that having that peace of mind with that financial burden of not having to worry where the money's coming from, or having a fish fry, or doing a GoFundMe, and that hurts to do a GoFundMe because most people, especially insurance agents, I would say for myself, I don't pick on people for doing GoFundMe's anymore because it wasn't their fault in the first place. It was the person that left to go to a better place. So with that, if we can take some people off the street, and what I mean by that is people that are not covered, and get them at least a plan, and they can get insurance too, because that is the number one priority. But there's some people that we can't get covered, that the people living a 600-pound life. This might be for them because they're not getting a traditional insurance policy, right? Or maybe that one person that has an alcohol or drug abuse problem. This may be for them, that family member that we may have in that situation. So with that, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you for showing up. If you definitely, I put my number in the chat. If you got any questions, please reach out to me, and we can set up a separate conversation on the person that invited you. And enjoy the rest of your weekend, and have a good night, y'all.
Thanks, Mr. Cedric.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.